Hello everyone. Let's continue with class 1 part 2. So now let's take a look at how do firms engage in international business. So what are the ways that we can actually conduct international business? So first we have international trade, then we have licensing, then we have franchising, we have joint ventures, we have acquisition, so you buy another company, a smaller company, and we have establishing new foreign subsidiary, a whole new subsidiary. Okay, so we start with international business in which we simply import export. So in Malaysia, we import CPO, we export CPO, we import maybe like agriculture products, apples, etc. So that's called international trade, and it's the simplest way of conducting business on an international basis. Now we have licensing. So what do you mean by licensing? So we obtain a license to do something. Now we have franchising. It might look similar, but it's a bit different from the previous. Then we have joint ventures, two big people decide to do something similar. Why? Each one finds a benefit and potential for doing that. So let's begin with international trade. Okay, so in international trade, relatively conservative approach that can be used by firms. So we call that conservative. Why? Because it's the simplest way of doing it. If you're scared, you don't want to open a subsidiary, you don't want to become partner with someone, you want the lowest risk. I say, okay, you import and export. That's the simplest way to do it. So you can basically penetrate markets by exporting and obtain supplies at lower cost through importing. So you need raw materials, they're expensive here, maybe you import them from some other country. For example, Boeing, DuPont, Proton, IBM, all of these companies, they do the following. Okay, so what's the risk here? No risk, almost no risk, minimal risk, especially if you do it properly. So there are ways to do it. You don't just transfer the money simply. There are certain ways in which you involve banks in payments and you issue LCs, etc. And then you make sure these products arrive safely. You make sure you receive your payment in full. Now let's move to licensing. So in licensing, it obligates a firm to provide its technology, copyrights, patents, trademarks, or trade names in exchange for fees. Okay, so I worked so hard to to have my name, to have my reputation in the market. So if someone else wants to use my technology, of course I'm gonna charge them some money for it in exchange. So it allows firms to use their technology in foreign markets without a major investment. So here you can see there is no major investment and without transportation costs that results from exporting. Major disadvantage, difficult to ensure quality control because you're not there. Somehow you're there and you're not there. So risk is still low, but you cannot really do what you really want. It's not going to be easy too. So it's difficult to ensure quality control in foreign production process. For example, Starbucks has licensing agreements with SSP. Who's SSP? An operator of food and beverages in Europe. So SSP can sell Starbucks products in train stations and airports throughout all of Europe. Okay, so that's called licensing. So SSP got the licensing to basically sell Starbucks products not anywhere, in stations and airports only. Okay, so let's now move to franchising. Okay, the best example, I'm sure you're familiar with it: McDonald's, Pizza Hut, KFC, Subway, Starbucks, etc. So, obligates the firm to provide specialized sales. So you go to Subway shops, they look the same. How? How do they have the same things? Everything tastes the same, looks the same, feels the same, you know? So, how? Because these shops get the supplies ready from Subway. So you want to invest in Subway shop, you can discuss it with Subway. If it's not exclusive, you pay them some money, they will send you supplies, they will do the decoration, etc. So it obligates firms to provide a specialized sales or service strategy, support assistance, and possibly an initial investment in their franchise in exchange for periodic fees. So you pay me 100,000 every year. Okay? In exchange, I will make sure everything looks proper. It will look like an original McDonald's or Starbucks shop. So design, you're not gonna have freedom to do any of this. There will be people making sure the image of McDonald's is there. Your staff will be trained under McDonald's. Again, it has some pros and cons. Pros, you don't have to be perfect. They are perfect already. They will help you do things perfectly. On the other hand, some cons, such as, for example, you want to invent, to innovate something, you want to, use your brain and do something, you want to teach something to your staff, that's not gonna be your responsibility. You must adhere very closely to the instructions given by McDonald's. Now let's move to joint ventures. A venture that is jointly owned and operated by two or more firms. So let's say KFC wanted to issue some new product. McDonald's surprisingly also had some, interest in it, so they joined each other. Of course, that's not a very good example. A good example can be Xerox and Fuji films. So Xerox is American, Fuji from Japan. They engaged in joint venture that allowed Xerox Corporation to penetrate the Japanese market and allowed Fuji to enter the photocopying business. As you may know, Fuji at a certain time, they were not doing well because of new technologies. So that was a good opportunity for them to learn from someone, a giant like Xerox. Xerox, on the other hand, needed to enter new markets. Japanese market is maybe a great option, a developed economy, etc. So it allows two firms to apply their respective cooperative advantages in a given project. So you're perfect at what you do, I'm perfect at what I do, and we saw some potential in the future that both of us can do even better. So we basically have joint ventures for that. Now let's move to acquisitions. So what is acquisitions? Someone acquire another. Usually big acquires small. Facebook acquired WhatsApp, Instagram, etc. So acquisitions of firms in foreign countries allows firms to have full control. What's the advantage? Full control. You can change the procedures now. You can change the logo. You can do whatever you want, even though no one does that. So usually they acquire a company and they change whatever they want. But usually if it's a profitable company, you do not simply change their name or any of that, because it's profitable. You just make it the way it's suitable for you, but you can keep it generating profits for you. That's what you should do. So, subject to the risk of large losses because of larger investments, of course. So now we're talking high risk. So you buy WhatsApp, it's not gonna be cheap. If you bought it for some reason and suddenly this thing you wanna do didn't work for some reason, you lost billions of dollars. It's not a joke anymore, like import, export. Liquidation may be difficult if the foreign subsidiary performs poorly. So after you purchase it, if it's not doing well, selling it again will not be a good idea. It's gonna lose so much money. For example, Google has made major international acquisitions to expand its business and to improve its technology. Sometimes, sometimes a company buys another just to protect itself. How? Because they find them as competitors and they don't want these competitors to be competing with them. So simply they can buy them if they're rich, if they have money. So you can see here how Google acquired businesses in Australia, search engines, Brazil, Canada, China, Finland, Germany, in different industries, Russia, online advertising, South Korea, weblog software, Spain, photo sharing, and Sweden, video conferencing. So they're not buying from a country because of the nationality. They're buying because they like that product. So acquisition on MNC level doesn't really happen in one country. It happens on a global scale. Now let's move to establishing new foreign subsidiaries. So firms can penetrate markets by establishing new operations in foreign countries. So let's say I have a company in Malaysia. I want to start the same business in Singapore. However, I want to start new in Singapore. Okay, so I go there, I obtain a license, I begin my business. So it requires large investment because you're starting from scratch. You're starting this whole company from scratch. Acquiring new as opposed to buying existing allows operations to be tailored exactly to the firm's needs. So, what are the pros? The pros, obvious. You do it from scratch, you build it according to what you want. No one can, create something you do not need. You will tailor it to exactly customize it to what you need. May require some smaller investment than buying existing films. Now, another pro is that sometimes, or not sometimes, most of the times, it's cheaper to start a company with your own name than buying an existing company, because that company would not simply give up their whole effort and give you the company for a normal price. Usually they want high profits, so you must give them a very good incentive by providing them with a lot of extra money to simply convince them. So what's the summary of these methods? Okay, so now we will get into something called DFI. Any method of increasing international business that requires a direct investment in foreign operation is referred to as DFI, direct foreign investment, okay? So any of these methods that require direct investment in foreign operation, we're gonna call DFI. Now, international trade and license licensing usually not included, because you do not really invest capital when you export or import, you're just buying something from outside of Malaysia, or you are selling something to outside of Malaysia. Foreign acquisition and establishment of new foreign subsidiaries represent the largest portion of the FI. So when a company decides to come to Malaysia and start new, or buy some big company in Malaysia like Petronas, they inject capital in the economy. So usually Malaysia welcomes these people. Why? Because they bring money on board. So they spend money here, create businesses, better circulation of money in the economy, etc. So as you can see here, the first diagram reflects an MNC that engages in international trade. So international cash flows result from paying for imports or receiving cash flow from exports. Very clear. You can see it here in the chart. Now, this is licensing, franchising, joint ventures. Okay, so cash inflow from services provided, cash outflow for services provided. So the second diagram reflects an MNC that engages in some international arrangements. Again, outflows include expenses such as expenses incurred from transferring technology or funding partial investment in franchise or joint venture. Inflows are receipts from fees, whereby, let's go back to the previous one. If you can see here in the previous one, cash flow not from services provided, from exporting. Outflow from importing. Okay, now let's continue with the next. So finally, let's take a look at the final diagram. So the third diagram reflects an MNC that engages in direct foreign investment. Okay, DFI. Cash flows exist between the parent company and the foreign subsidiary. So now I'm a Malaysian company. I started another subsidiary in Singapore. Okay, so how do I receive cash inflow? From earnings, remitted earnings. So the profits in Singapore will be transferred to me. And how would I spend money? Cash outflow. How do cash outflow from me to Singapore? To finance the operations. It's my company. I need to buy raw materials. I need to produce or provide the service. I need to pay rent, bills, etc. Okay, so that's my outflow. Inflow, all the profits. So you can see why countries welcome you as this option, because it involves larger amounts of money. So one of these people coming may be better than 10 people importing, exporting, right? So one big corporation starting the business at our country will create stable jobs for the people. Not only this, they will be sending large amounts of money to produce their goods. So even our remittance companies will be benefiting. This is how corporations and governments, see it. So governments don't only take a look at the profits and profitability, etc. They take a look at the macro effect. The profits of this company will reflect not only on the company itself, but the people, the employees, the customers will be satisfied, etc. Okay, so we reached the end of our class number 1. part 1 and part 2. Please don't forget to watch both parts. And your feedback about the quality of the video, of the picture, of the slides, of the voice, the clarity, it really matters so much to me. So please provide me with your feedback so I can always improve my videos, inshallah, in the future. And I will see you tomorrow, inshallah, during our Q&A session. Please do not forget to write down your questions together with the slide number so we can quickly go to the slide and discuss the questions. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.